Hi friends, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a very late what I read in December 2021. It was probably my slowest month of the year. You probably saw just from the lack of uploads and just how I dropped off the face of the earth from Bookmas. It was just a really rough December, very stressful, lots of things were going on, and it was just like I was in such a slump, and I've honestly been in such a slump since September. And it just kept getting progressively worse and worse and worse throughout each month. So I'm going to go into the books I read throughout December. Even though I didn't read a ton, I feel like I had some really good quality books. So let's jump into those. First, we'll talk about my rereads. I reread The Hobbit and Where Dreams Descend. The Hobbit I ended up giving 4 stars, which is similar to what I experienced the first and second time I read it. This was my third reread of it, or second reread, third time reading it. And then this was my second time reading Where Dreams Descend. So this I picked up in order to like refresh myself going into When Night Breaks, which is the sequel. So I really enjoyed this reread as well and gave it 5 stars. Next, we'll jump into all of my holiday-esque books. We'll go through the ones that I read digitally or on audiobook first that I do not own. First is In a Holidays. I did actually own it and unhauled it because this was just not my favorite. It was very like lackluster to me. I wasn't in love with the characters or their plot line or their romance. It felt very insta-lovey to me, even though the characters themselves have known each other for a while. The love itself has kind of an insta-love feel. So that wasn't my favorite, and I just couldn't get into the plot or the characters that much. So I ended up giving it 3 stars. I honestly thought that was going to be like the holiday read for me, so that was kind of a disappointment. I guess I should have mentioned In the Holidays we're following 2 people that have known each other their whole lives. Both their families are best friends, and they rent out this like cabin every Christmas, and this Christmas the parents have decided to sell the cabin, and our main character girl is very upset about this, and on the way home from the cabin that year, after they just found out, they get in a car wreck, and this girl is sent back in time and almost has like a Groundhog Day situation until she ends up with the main guy. So maybe that's why it felt insta-lovey, because it was just like the same day, and it felt like they got like romantic in a day, even though it was actually several days and they have known each other for a while. It didn't work for me. Next, I read The Holiday Switch, also one that I thought was going to be a huge success for me and ended up kind of flopping. In just my personal opinion, it was again just kind of lackluster. It had definitely that Hallmark vibe feel, but with young adults, and we are following a young girl who works at a bookstore, and she ends up falling for the bookstore owner's nephew, I think is their relation. Very cute, just again, it was kind of lackluster. 3 star. I probably won't ever pick it up again, but it was fun and almost Hallmark-esque for the first read. Then I read Always in December, in which we are following Josie, who her parents passed away on Christmas Eve when she was 9, and every year since she has written a letter to them saying like, I miss you, Merry Christmas, that sort of thing, and she delivers it on Christmas Eve every year. It has become a tradition for her. However, this year her boyfriend of a long period of time cheated on her right around the holidays, so they broke up on Christmas Eve, and she's just miserable, and she's going to fulfill this tradition of like delivering the letters to the mailbox, and she's just really out of sorts, really upset about things, and she bikes right into a person and ends up biking right into Max and literally falls head over heels for him. And these 2 are strangers, and Max's flight was canceled, so he's stuck in town, and he asked her to like show him around, and they end up spending the holidays together because neither of them has anyone. for that holiday season, and of course they end up falling in love. There's fake dating, and it was super cute. Like 4.5 stars only because of the ending. Get the tissues ready for this one. Next is One Day in December. In this, we are following two main characters who happen to make eye contact at a bus stop one day in December, and it was like insta love as soon as they made eye contact, like love at first sight kind of deal. However, the mystery man and our main character don't end up meeting because he isn't able to get on the bus in time to meet her. So she spends like a majority of her life trying to find this bus guy. It ends up that, of course, her best friend starts dating a guy, and it's this mystery bus guy. So there's this tension of like they know that they're each other, but he's dating her best friend, and just this weird tension. It does have a cheating aspect, which I didn't like, but overall it was a really good story. I did give it 4.5 stars for that cheating aspect though, so trigger warnings if you don't like hearing about that. And I read the Santa Suit. I actually own this book, but I gave it to my mom for Christmas because I thought she would love it as well. I unfortunately don't have the physical copy with me right now. This is such a cute book, the perfect like holiday season book. It is about a woman who gets divorced and moves to a small town, and when she moves into this farmhouse, it's the farmhouse of the old folks that used to like dress up as Santa and Mrs. Claus, and they did the big light show, and they were super into Christmas. She's not so much into Christmas, but when she moves into this house, she finds an old Santa suit, and in the Santa suit there's a letter from a little girl asking Santa to bring her father home for Christmas. So she goes on this huge hunt to find this little girl, because obviously the letter is from a much further back time, like past. So the little girl would be an older woman now, so she's trying to find out who this woman might be, what's happened to her father, what the story was, and it just resolves really beautifully, and I love this book so much. If you love Hallmark, if you love Miracle on 34th Street vibes, or just like happy, good vibes, I don't even know. It was just amazing. And finally, for my Christmassy reads, I picked up the entire Moose Springs backlist that is currently released, which includes The Tourist Attraction, Mistletoe, and Mr. Right, and Enjoy the View. I also read the ebook that's like a short story in between these two that is a Christmas one for Ulysses, and there's another one coming out, I believe, this year or next year, and I think that'll be the fourth and final installment of these books. But these were so fun. If you like Gilmore Girls, it definitely has the same like small town, everyone knows each other kind of vibes, and I really enjoyed it. Tourist Attraction, we are following a kind of grumpy sunshine-esque character. Mistletoe and Mr. Right, we are following fake dating, I'm pretty sure. And then Enjoy the View, I think, is enemies to lovers, like reluctant enemies to lovers. Yeah, the last two books I read and don't own are Stay Gold by Toby Mcsmith. This is following a male who has transitioned, and it's his journey in starting at a new school and falling in love with the popular girl. There's tons of trigger warnings, so make sure you look them up ahead of time. But I loved this book. I absolutely gave it 5 stars. Yeah, I adored it so much. And the final digital book I read was The House in the Cerulean Sea, and this surprised me, you guys. I never expected to like this one nearly as much as I did, and it ended up definitely breaking into the top 10 of the year for me, so stay tuned for that. I loved this book so much. We are following a man who works at almost a like children's services agency, but it's for specifically this world and society. This world has like magical beings that are adopted into these like care centers, and our main character's job is to go to these centers and make sure that the children are basically behaving and not causing problems in society and that sort of thing. And he gets assigned to a very high stakes confidential task, and he has to go to the house in the Cerulean Sea, which is a center, and these kids are like the worst of the worst. But it was so cute. It talks about like not judging a book by its cover, and people are so much more than what people might judge them to be, and it was just so good. I loved it. Please read it. 5 stars. Moving on to my book club books, I picked up These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet in 1920s, I think, Shanghai, 1926 Shanghai, and it definitely delves into that like historical aspect a lot. It took me a hot second to get into, but I really enjoyed it towards the end and ended up giving it 4 stars. Trigger warning for insects though. If you have any ick towards insects, you will hate this book, so just be aware going in. And the November book pick for the YA book club was actually The Witch Haven by Sasha Payton Smith, and this was actually so much fun. It's like a historical fantasy, and we are following a young girl who gets sexually assaulted by her boss and ends up discovering she has powers because of this horrible traumatic event, and she gets taken into a witch school. However, this witch school isn't quite what it seems, and there's something dark lurking underneath the like yay magic kind of atmosphere. So I really liked this one. Then the final books I read were sequels to previous series. First we have Kingsbane, which is the second book of the Furyborn trilogy. I love this trilogy so much, and this is definitely a slower world building, detail oriented story, but I love every single detail. So I'm thriving in this world, and I need to pick up Lightbringer as soon as possible. Let's be honest. Oh, and if you don't know, the first book is following a Sun Queen and a Blood Queen. One is dealt to destroy the earth and one is dealt to save it, and we're following 2 perspectives trying to figure out who's who in the first book. By the second book we kind of know who's who, and it's breaking down like the Sun Queen and the Blood Queen meeting and fighting and that sort of thing. So yeah. Next I read the next installment of the High Republic arc in the Star Wars books, and that was The Rising Storm by Cavan Scott. This is immediately following Light of the Jedi, and we are at the like World Fair almost, and the Nihil are about to attack again. They're really gearing up for this attack, and it's the attack on the World Fair. So we're following all the aspects and perspectives of that, and it's so good. And final book and favorite book of the month, potentially year, if I included sequels in my year-end like favorites, is Kingdom of the Cursed by Carrie Minisculgo. This is the sequel to Kingdom of the Wicked. I loved Kingdom of the Wicked, but Kingdom of the Cursed just went to a whole new level, you guys. It did become very new adult from the young adult perspective that Kingdom of the Wicked was, so be aware. But it was so good. Oh my gosh. Oh yes. So Kingdom of the Wicked, we are following 2 twins, or a set of twins, I don't know how to say that, and one of them is killed, so our main character is trying to basically solve this murder mystery, and she makes a deal with the devil to solve it. And in this one she ends up in hell and chaos ensues. Yeah. So those are the books I read in December. Let me know what you guys read or what your favorite book of December was, and I'll check with you in my next one. Bye friends!